I made 1.2 million Kenyan shillings farming cabbage, and that is how I escaped poverty in 4 months forever. And I'm not going to poverty again. This video is for those who are struggling with poverty and those that want to get out of debt. Let me tell you, 2 years ago I had just graduated, no job offer, no savings, just a degree, and the fear that comes with it, because everyone in the village expects you that now you have graduated, you have to be working in a high-end office. You get me, right? Now, everyone said that farming was a step backward. They said cabbage was too small, too cheap, too basic to change a life of a graduate. But today, that same cabbage farm pays my bills, covers my daily expenses, and did something I never expected. Yes, it helped me to get out of poverty. I literally escaped from poverty. So in this video, I break down exactly how I did it, how much land I used, how little money I started with, the mistakes that almost wiped out everything I had, and the simple system that turned cabbage into a steady income for me and for my family. Now, if you are a young, just graduated and wondering what next, this might be the next important video you watch this year. So in the next part, I'm going to show you how the first decision was made, how much land I used, how little money I had, and why starting small turned out to be everything. But before I do that, please let me know where you are watching this video from, either the county or the country, in case you are outside the Republic of Kenya. And as always, please remember to press the subscription button and like, comment, and share this video so that we can build a family of farmers that are trying to get out of poverty. So let us go to part 2. Let me tell you one thing, my friend. Poverty is bad. Poverty is so bad, and it stinks. So you have to make very deliberate decisions. For every journey begins the same way, not with confidence, but with a step taken despite its absence. With me, I did it on land, so I hired it. 2 acres, not a kingdom, but enough to tell a very serious story that you are listening today. Each acre costed me $150, 300 in total. Money I counted twice, then counted again. The seeds came next, cabbage seeds. $200 worth of possibilities sealed in small unassuming packets. Then I put them on the bed. Fertilizer followed. $100, measured, rationed, respected. That was the budget. No hidden figures, no safety margin. And if you are wondering where the money came from, it didn't come from the banks. It didn't come from investors. It came from belief. Let me tell you, during my graduation, I had gifts from family members who had already given me enough. Also, I had gifts from neighbors who understood struggle without explanation. Also, the friends came through. The friends saw a graduate standing at a crossroads, and also some money from well-wishers who attended my graduation and offered what they could. I added the little savings I had. Not so much to be brave, but enough to begin. So 2 acres of rented land, $300 for soil, $200 for seeds, $100 for fertilizer. Of course, I added some small money like buying pesticides and all that, labor and all that. Every dollar had a name. Every expense had a consequence. So I prepared the land carefully, not with so much confidence, but with respect and of course with fear. Because I feared, what if all this goes to the valleys? Rows were measured like promises, spacing was precise because mistakes were unaffordable. I planted slowly, deliberately, and this as if each seed could hear my intentions. Cabbage doesn't rush, it waits. It watches who will return tomorrow. Some mornings fear arrived before the sun. Pests, weather, markets that change their mind every single day. And sometimes those fears were justified. You understand, this is your first time you are doing this, right? But something happens when you show up daily, when you water with discipline, when you correct mistakes early, when you refuse to abandon what you started. The land responds. I'm telling you, my friend. Mistakes became lessons. Lessons became systems, and slowly, quietly, green began to rise from the soil. These plants were not vegetables. They were my rent. They were my meals. They were dignity taking shape. I had not escaped poverty yet, but for the first time since graduation, I wasn't standing still. I saw myself growing. So in the next part 3, I will take you to the moment everything changed. The first harvest, the first buyers, and the number that made me realize this was no longer survival. This was income streaming in, and this is exactly what I want you to do. My home is in a rural village, so my farming was not a city farm. No highways nearby, no supermarkets in sight. This was a rural village where mornings arrive with mist and news travels faster than trucks. I planted 30,000 cabbage heads, 30,000 small acts of faith pressed into the soil, one row at a time. Of course, not all of them made it. Farming never promises perfection. Pests came, weather tested patience, a few plants simply refused to grow. In the end, I harvested 25,000 heads, and that number mattered. I didn't work alone. Of course, I couldn't afford to. How can you work on 2 acres of land, 30 heads of cabbage as one person? So local labor stepped in, men and women who knew the land, who understood agency, who worked not just for wages but with pride, assisting their just recently graduate. Okay, so we harvested the early mornings before the sun became a burden. Knives moved fast, hands moved faster, and here is the path no one expects. I already had buyers. Can you imagine that, how God comes through people? Not maybes, not promises. I had real buyers. Word had spread quietly through the village. Traders came, pickup trucks arrived, phones rang before the harvest was even finished. Each cabbage sold at 50 Kenyan shillings. That is roughly about $50, right? Yeah. So let us do the simple math here. No exaggeration. 25,000 heads multiplied by 50 shillings, that is 1.25 million Kenyan shillings, about $12,500. I remember standing there, dust on my shoes, numbers in my head, trying to reconcile reality with my memory. This was just cabbage, the crop they laughed at. This was a rural village, the place they said opportunity is forgotten. This was a graduate they expected to struggle longer. And yet, here it was. Not luck, not magic. Just land, discipline, timing, and a market that was ready. That day, poverty didn't disappear dramatically. There were no celebrations, no headlines, but something had shifted. Bills stopped chasing me. Food was no longer a question. Choices returned. And for the first time since graduation, money was no longer the problem. It was the proof. So in part 4, I'll break down the cost, the profit, the mistakes I will never repeat, and why this was only the beginning, not the finishing line. So let us go to part 4. Have you remembered to subscribe? Please do so if you have not subscribed. So let us go to part 4. So when the dust settled, I counted the truth. 2 acres of land, seeds, fertilizer, labor, transport, every hidden cost included. Just under $400 against an income of 1.2 million Kenyan shillings. The numbers were real, but the lesson was bigger. Profit didn't come from land size, it came from systems. Knowing my buyers before planting, controlling costs before they grew teeth, harvesting on time, not when it felt comfortable. Mistakes were made, of course, spacing, pace, timing, but mistakes are not failures when they leave behind instructions. That money didn't make me rich, it made me stable. Bills stopped chasing me, choices returned, and for the first time since graduation, I understood this. Poverty is not always a lack of opportunity. Sometimes it is just lack of strategy. This story is not about cabbage or about farming alone. It's about seeing value where others see nothing. It's about starting small when the world tells you to wait. If you are a graduate with more questions than answers, if you are tired of being told to be patient while life gets expensive, this is your sign. Land doesn't have to be owned. Capital doesn't have to be huge, and success doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it grows quietly, one seed at a time. If this story helped you to see possibility, share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe for more real farming stories, real numbers, and real lessons from the ground, because your way out might already be in your hands. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year 2026. Let us meet in 2026 for more farming stories, inspirations, and all that. But for now, bye bye. This is Korobe Farm.